In this video, I'm going to show how to adapt a toy as well as create a switch, but in this first part, we're going to adapt the toy. So with this, you're going to need a soldering iron, solder, a pair of scissors, wire strippers, a male to female headphone jack extension. It could also be a female to female, but there's a reason why I recommend doing a male to female. You'll also need a multimeter, and you might need a knife. So with children's toys, they're often activated with a button press. This one in particular, you press the belly and it will...
Hi, my name is Teddy Ruxpin. Can you and I be friends?
So not every children's toy activates with that kind of button. Some of them, many of them, will activate with just an on-off button. And so the process is very, very similar. So in this situation, the battery holder is also the housing for the switch, and that's what we want to get to. So I'm going to turn this off, and we're going to open up the inside. So in this case, at least, we need to go deeper inside. So we'll just go ahead and remove all of the screws to open it up the whole way. And it looks like this toy is also held in with a zip tie. So let's cut that if we can. So if you look at the switch, this is the button, and you can see that it has two wires coming from it, and it's connecting right here to these 2 points. And so the switch is simply bridging the two connections, and so we want to replicate that with our own external switch. So we will take a look at the the headphone adapter now. So the reason why we would want to use a male to female headphone jack is for a few reasons. One, you can make your own cables if you wanted to, but these are much more readily available, and because the components are already attached, then all you have to do is cut and strip your wires to what you need, as opposed to actually doing the whole barrel on your own. The other thing is that if you decide to create your own switch, then this would also give you the other side that you would need for the switch. Otherwise, if you're only going to be adapting toys, you could use a female to female extension cable. In this instance, I'm going to pick a length and cut it using my wire strippers. I'm going to remove the outer part with the wire strippers as well. So you can see in this instance I am left with just 2 wires, which is good. That's all we need. And I'm going to use the wire strippers to reveal the copper inside. So that's what you should end up with. So these 2 wires are going to connect on these 2 points. So it'll connect there. When using a soldering iron, please be very, very careful. These are very hot. You can definitely burn yourself using these. So as I soldered it, I did release the original wire by accident. So that is another thing that you'll need to keep in mind when attempting this. I should have soldered the wire first to tin it, and that will help it adhere better once I actually get it onto the circuit board. So what we want to do is we want to test and make sure our connections are not bridged. Bridged means that both the red and the black cable are touching, and that is not what we want. We want the black and the red cable to only be touching at the points that they're supposed to be touching. Because if they are bridged, that means that it's always connecting and that it will not work the way that we intend it to work. So let's put the batteries in so we can at least first test and make sure that the regular button is still working correctly.
Hi, my name is Teddy Ruxpin.
So that's a good
Can you
sign.
and I be friends?
So with your multimeter, you're going to use the switch for continuity. Every multimeter works a little bit differently. Read the instructions that comes with the one that you purchase. But continuity, all that does is check and see if there is a connection. So as an example, this pocket knife should have continuity just on the metal itself. So 1 touch, then 2 touches indicates that there's connection there. So we will touch these 2 points, and it doesn't matter if I'm using black or red on the black or red wires because it's just looking to see if there is a bridge to see. It does not. So that's actually a good sign right here, is that it's not bridging. If I'll touch both just so you can see that that's not what we wanted to do. Yep, so no bridging. Do another close-up. Nothing is bridged on there. And as an additional check, what we'll do is we'll use a commercial switch. This is the kind that you would buy from a variety of special needs vendors. And so I'm going to plug it in first, and then we'll power it on.
Hi, my name is Teddy Ruxpin.
Okay.
Can you and I be friends?
So now we just need to close it up and put everything back together. So in this instance, I'm going to cut a small hole so that the wires can come through it. So there's a couple of ways you can do this. You could use a knife. Some people will opt to actually just use the soldering iron to melt the plastic. It's not ideal, but it should work, and it should be pretty quick. Again, just be careful of the fumes. Make sure that where you're working is fairly well ventilated, if this is the option that you're going to go with. And once you got it closed, you're gonna screw everything . So I'm just going to route the cable outside of the Teddy Ruxpin like that. Keep it simple. And we'll test it one more time just to make sure that everything is working right.
I love to go on big adventures. Let's sail away, the flowers are bright. Together we make a pie. I love to go on. Let's sail away today. The flowers are bright as can be.
So we can see that it works with the switch or the original button that it has built in. Now we'll look at creating our own switch. So this is a project box. These can be readily purchased on Amazon or hobby shops. You might be able to find these at hardware stores as well. This is a switch. This pack in particular has red and black switches. Use what you like. You can use a variety of different switches. The main thing is that these switches are momentary switches, which means that when you press down, that's when the connection happens. It doesn't happen before or after, and it doesn't stay on when you press. And we'll use a multimeter to show exactly what I mean. When I press this button, it should make the multimeter beep. And it will only make beep for as long as I hold the button down. So that's a momentary switch. So these are the types of switches that you'll want to use in a switch for adapted use. There are a lot of different types of switches. These are just a kind that I have in my parts projects. So you'll want to pick a box, whatever the box is. Again, this is just something that I already had on hand, but you can use really anything that you want because it's simply just bridging a connection. So it could be this button, it could be a much larger button, it could be 2 wires. You can get really creative with this, but for now, we're going to go ahead and just use this box. So in the same instance as creating the hole for the Teddy Ruxpin wire, I'm just going to go ahead and use the soldering iron to create the hole for the switch. That's probably not the best way to do it, but it is going to be the easiest way to do it. So I'm just going to go ahead and aim for the center. So let that cool off for a second, and then we're gonna trim the plastic that's melted around. Okay. Test fit. No, still a little small. Doesn't quite fit. There we go. I'm gonna clean that up too, because we want it to sit flush. Okay. So you can see that the button sits mostly flush. And then it comes with a nut and a washer. So we're just going to go put the nut down and we'll put the washer on. And now you've got a button. Now we just need to add a wire. So we take the cable from earlier and we're going to go ahead and just cut a fairly long length, and same concept applies. So we're going to strip off the outside sheathing and we're left with just 2 wires, which is what we wanted. Very straightforward to deal with. We're going to strip off the outside of each one again. And for simplicity for this type of switch, because it does have holes where the contacts are, we're just going to thread this wiring through those holes on each side before we solder. It'll make it much easier to solder. So I got it through. I'm going to just bend it up, make it easier on myself. Same thing on this side. From there, we do our soldering job again, and this one's again way easier than the other one. Okay, soldered in. So now we can test it. Teddy Ruxpin. We're gonna turn this. Actually, let's go ahead and connect it first. Then we're going to turn it on, and we'll hit the button.
Hi, my name is Teddy Ruxpin. Can you and I be friends?
And we know it works. So we'll just finish up the switch. We need to cut a hole similar to the way we did with the Teddy Ruxpin. We'll go ahead and just do another melty hole just to keep it simple. And you can choose to glue that in if you really want to, but it's not necessary. And there it is. You have your own switch. You have a switch adapted toy. And that's everything.